Okay, all right. Today we are making a little cup to go along with our teapot. It's a real simple cup. It's one that I like to make. And it's a really easy first cup, or it's a cup that you can make a lot of multiples of pretty easy and pretty quickly. So, some of the materials we're gonna need. One, a rib. I recommend this red rubber rib by Cheryl Mud Tools. It's really soft and it's really nice for hand building. I have two of them and they come in different colors, and the red is the softest. I have an X-Acto knife. I'm a big fan of the X-Acto knife. I think that you can just cut your forms really nice and clean. Just make sure not to put too much pressure on them, because you'll cut through your canvas mat, which I have done on accident before. So now I know not to put that kind of pressure in. So we have that. We have a scoring tool. We can use a scoring tool like this. We can use toothpicks. You can just use a needle tool if you'd like. But this is the one that I really like, and I can show you guys how to make one of these. It's very, very easy. It's just some straight pins and a wine cork and a little Gorilla Glue. A pattern. I was thinking this pattern, I'm gonna have to measure, but this pattern is almost the exact same width as a receipt that you get from CVS. I'm gonna try it with the receipt pretty soon just to see, but I'm thinking that this width is really close to a receipt. So if you have one of those 15-foot long CVS receipts, that may be something that you can use as a pattern for this cup. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay down my pattern on my clay, and I'm gonna cut it out. Now I want to take a look at the thickness of my slab. Right now it's about just a little bit more of a 1/4 inch thick. It kind of varies in. I took the slab out of the slab roller. I rolled it a little bit more with my rolling pin to make it a little thinner, and then I compressed my slab with a rib to kind of help with the stability of the slab. So it's just a little thicker than I want my cup. So I'm gonna move this over to this side here, which I'll be coming back to later. And then I'm just gonna roll this just slightly more. There we go. That's a little bit better. So I'm gonna straighten that back out. I'm gonna compress that slab again with my rib. And I'm gonna, when I rolled it back out, obviously it's gonna get a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna take my form again, or my template, and I'm gonna recut. Smooth that out, and then just taking out all that canvas texture. You can leave it if you want, but I don't recommend it. So now I have my little rectangle. Now what I'm gonna do right now, because I find doing it at this point makes it a little easier than doing it at the end, I'm just taking off the corner of the top part of that little crease, and I'm gonna do it on the other side. so that the mouth of my cup is rounded. You can do it also after you make the cup, but I find it's a lot easier to do it at this stage. That way I don't have to mess with my perfect circle once I do make it into that circle. So now I'm going to sit my slab upright. I'm going to wrap it and get it to the size that I want. So I think that's a good size for a coffee cup right there. And if you notice, it's doubled right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my X-Acto knife. I'm going to put it at a 45-degree angle where these two meet. And you can cut anywhere at this point because it doesn't really matter. It's going to be the same size if you cut here, cut here, cut here. But I'm going to go right in the middle just so I give myself a little breathing room. Now I'm going to cut it at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to go nice and slow so it doesn't shake too much. The straighter I can make this cut, the better. Now I'm going to get rid of the two excess pieces of clay that are left after that. I'm going to go to my little scoring tool, and I'm going to score both sides of this beveled edge. Now I have a paintbrush and a little bit of water. I'm just going to get that wet. I'm going to wet both sides. And I'm going to seal them back together. So when you seal these back together, I want the leading edge to come up and over on the outside of the cup and do the same thing on the inside of the cup. So I don't want it to meet perfectly. I want it to meet and go just a little bit past. And then I can bring that front area down and make that connection. I'm leaving my finger. You can use a thing like this. I've seen people use a dowel rod so it stays rounder. I just want something so when I'm making this, sealing this, that it has a little bit of tension behind it. I'm doing the same thing on the inside. And then I'm trying to make the seam here on the lip of the cup disappear. I want it to be pretty much gone. This is where I'm going to make my attachment for my handle. So it doesn't have to be completely disappeared, and that's up to you. Sometimes I'll just leave the crease, and then the glaze can break on the crease too. But for today, I'm getting rid of most of it. You can see there's still a tiny bit of a crease there, but not too much. And then what I need to do is get this into a nice round cup shape. That looks pretty good. I'm bumping on the bottom so I make sure that all these walls are doing the same thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit thicker piece So this piece here is the original slab piece. And when I do my bottoms, I tend to make them a little bit heavier instead of thinner. That way it has a little bit of weight on the bottom of the cup, so I'm not nearly as concerned with making my clay thin. I want it thinner here because I want it to be kind of nice. I want it to be a little bit lighter and pretty delicate. But the bottom is okay. It can be a little bit thicker. So I'm going to set that there. And then use use this needle tool to lightly trace the shape of that cup. You know what? I think also I'm gonna make a little mark there, because your cup's never gonna be perfectly round. It's gonna be a little asymmetrical. So you can see I made a little key right there. That key matches that seam, so now I know when I go to reattach this bottom, it should line right up to this seam. I'm gonna go ahead and make a little mark there so I can clearly see it. Now I'm gently gonna turn this cup over and very lightly score the bottom of this cup so I can make an attachment. Right, now that I've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and score. When you're scoring, you don't want to go too deep, but you want to make sure that that surface is nice and roughed up. So I like to go in a few different directions. It just seems the more kind of direction, the more you rough that surface area. And as you see, I didn't go very deep into that when I'm scoring. It's just really just the surface. I'm gonna wet that. This is one of my favorite tools to use, just because it's very simple, and it's a really good way to make it a very solid attachment in certain instances, a cup being one. So where's my there? And I can match this now because I have keyed it, and it fits exactly. So now what I'm going to do is very lightly, I'm going to tap the bottom on. So now that the bottom's on, also what I want to do, just for aesthetic purposes, I want to bring the bottom of this cup up and just a little bit over the walls of that glass. So how I do that is just barely. I'm not even using the weight of this, and I'm just slowly tapping it, and as I tap it, I'm kind of dragging it towards the outside of the cup. And as you can see, it's kind of starting to come up and over. Go. I'm just gonna wet my finger and go right back over that rim just a little bit, just to get any sort of clay boogers. Off of there. I'm gonna go right back around with my finger and get any spurs or anything. Well, on the bottom, I'm not nearly as concerned. And now I have a cup. And now let's make the handle. So from my slab, I have a piece of clay, and it's about 1/4 inch thick, and I want this one pretty thin. The thinness that I use and I talk about in most of my classes, for some reason I've come up with gum analogies. So the thickness of the slab here, because I'm going to double it over, I want it to be pretty thin. So not double mint gum, but Trident gum that's a little bit thicker is the thickness that I'm looking to. So everybody kind of knows what the thickness of a piece of Trident gum is. So it's a little bit thicker. And I would say it's maybe a 1/16 of an inch. It's pretty thin, but as I double it, it's gonna come back to about the size of a normal slab. And if I don't want to pull up that whole thing, I can just cut a little piece and I can check it. And that's about the thickness I'm looking for. So that's good. But that stick of gum kind of thickness. Now I'm gonna compress my slab again. Get it nice and smooth. I'm gonna flip it over and do the same thing. Okay, from there I'm gonna make kind of like a pyramid shape. So I have the top, and then I'm gonna come down, and then I'm gonna come down. So this is like a tall pyramid type shape, except for it's flat at the top. Then I'm gonna cut right here. So I'm gonna end up with a shape like this. So I'm gonna flip that over, and then I'm gonna try to fold it once, halfway. Depending on your clay, it may crack here, but that's okay. I know my clay, it's reclaimed clay, so it's a little short, so it is cracking a little bit. That's all right, I can smooth that out pretty easily. And I'm gonna fold it again. And eventually, it's gonna look something like this. Nice. Now I gotta decide where I'm gonna put this handle and how big it's gonna be. Right now, it's obviously, well not obviously, but it's too large for what I want. The handle I kind of like for this cup is one that's gonna sit a little bit lower, and it's gonna be a little bit shorter. So it's just like for maybe a single finger. So I'm gonna cut here, because I think that's gonna be plenty. And then I'm gonna squeeze it into a Y type shape. And this will always be the edge that I'm working with from now on. This one I can cut. So if I need it shorter, I'm gonna cut from down here, and I'm just gonna leave this one. So this is the thing I learned in Jen Allen's workshop. So also after I make it into a Y, I'm gonna knock off all these corners. So when I make that attachment, there's no kind of sharp corners. It's all soft, and I'll do that on the bottom too. And it just is a little thing that I'd never really thought of before, but since I've been doing it, I can kind of tell it makes the cup look a little bit nicer. It makes it look a little bit more finished. So I'm gonna flatten this because this is where my attachment's gonna be, and I'm just gonna attach it to the canvas for now. So that's a little big. Maybe I can even see what's gonna be on the cup. So obviously that's way too big. I'm gonna cut that quite a bit. I'm gonna cut it right to about here. Flatten that out and then roll that out again. Now that's pretty good. It's starting to crack again, but I'm just gonna use a little water and smooth that out. If I had a little bit more time and wasn't making a video, what I tend to do when I make these little handles is once I get it exactly in the shape that I want it to be in, I'll sit it in front of the fan for a few minutes and let it stiffen up. So when I do make that attachment, it doesn't start bending. You know, when it's really wet, it's really pliable. So sometimes you get your handle exactly the shape you want it, and then you attach it while it's too soft and it just kind of moves all over the place on you. Versus this one here, I'm just gonna go ahead and apply it wet. So I have it where I want it. Now I'm gonna use my needle tool to mark where that goes. So that's where the one corner is, that's where the other corner is. And then I'm just gonna make one line where I feel like the top should go. So as I remove it, if you can see, it looks like that. All right, now I'm going to score my cup. I'm gonna score there, and then I'm gonna score my handle. Use a little water. And make that attachment. So there we go. Okay, the only other thing I may do is, this is a lot tool, or wipeout tool. And just get rid of some of these boogers and stuff. This makes it look a little nicer, a little bit more finished. There we go. That's a little cup.